Hey, and welcome to Just Another Effing Podcast. I am your host. We love the dirty water. You can't park your car and have a job. It's the JFB James from Boston.
And it's me, your Canadian hero, Canada Dry. Yes, I am here, baby. I liked your Boston accent. That was pretty good.
It comes out every so often.
Did you do that on purpose, or?
No, yeah, I did that on purpose. I hide it intentionally because living in the South, it's hard for people to understand what I'm saying. So I have to speak slower and use
but you pretty much lost it then.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, so before we get to the news and to the bulk of our episode, I want to wish all the fathers out there. We're recording on Sunday. I want to wish all the fathers out there and all effing universe, including my father, happy Father's Day. I'm sure you want to do the same.
Yeah, my dad probably won't listen to this because he doesn't know how to figure that kind of stuff out. But happy Father's Day. Going to be spending taking him out for lunch or some sort of dinner or something like that today.
Yeah, I'm going to take my old man to a soccer game. So
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. All right. So episode 17, I need to speak to your managers. That is right. We are doing a top 5 list of each of us for a total of 10 about our favorite managers in wrestling. But before
I need to speak to your manager.
Before we pull a Karen,
yes,
to speak to your managers. Got some news that's fit to talk about. AEW is almost sold out at their New York City show at the Arthur Ashe Stadium, where the U.S. Open for tennis is held. They are going into WWE land. They are going to New York City.
That they're almost sold out.
Yeah.
Holy, like that's astounding.
Yeah, they're expecting anywhere from 23 to 25,000 people to show up for that show. So it's going to be called the Grand Slam. It's going to be a hot show. They're going to show those New York fans exactly why they are a competitor to WWE for sure.
Well, yeah, like WWE is also planning on going back on the road, and their shows aren't doing so well ticket-wise.
No, they are not. SummerSlam is close to being sold out, but of course it's
SummerSlam.
Yeah. But their house shows and their Raws and SmackDowns are not doing very well, which is interesting. Number 2, Karrion Kross wrestled last week in a dark match at SmackDown, possibly setting him up for an arrival to the main roster. Is he ready to jump to the main roster?
A lot of the NXT stars are ready for the main roster, but the problem is that there's too many chiefs in the kitchen, and they don't know what to do with them. So hopefully they can get it right and get some of these and like there's some great stars in NXT that can go on the main roster, but they just don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lana has come out. CJ is what her first name is. Known as Lana in WWE, is possibly going to spill the tea, so to speak, about the WWE. I had a personal conversation with a friend of mine who's a huge wrestling nerd, and he's like, oh, yeah, she's going to expose the WWE. And I'm like, why burn that bridge? I don't understand her coming out and trying to do that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. If she has a contract with AEW, and like women in wrestling only have a short shelf life.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So if her husband and working with her husband in AEW, possibly even a tag team with our friend Natalia Markova would be amazing.
That'd be awesome.
But if she can get some attention on herself going into AEW, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it's a great move, actually.
Oh, awesome. All right. So apparently there was a sighting.
A sighting.
It was Becky Lynch at the Performance Center. So Becky Lynch, is her debut coming sooner or later?
Well, they really need her on WWE TV.
Yeah.
So I could see that coming soon. It's hard though being a parent and doing that kind of stuff though, right?
Yeah. Especially when both parents are top-notch wrestlers. Her baby daddy, I don't know are they married? Seth Rollins and
I
Becky
think
Lynch?
so. I think they are.
Okay. So both of them full-time wrestle. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about doing this. But last but certainly not least, tonight is Hell in the Cell. Is there a match that you're looking forward to in Hell in the Cell?
Well, the Hell in the Cell, it's not quite what it used to be.
Yeah.
Because build up these things, you just throw everyone in the cage, but they're always fun.
Yeah. I think the match I'm looking forward to is Flair versus Ripley because I feel, and you can book this, I have a feeling Becky Lynch makes her appearance at Hell in the Cell in that match, either interfering or coming out at the end and challenging whoever won the belt.
I could see Flair winning this because they want to keep her happy, and
yeah,
her boyfriend's in AEW now, so
yeah, that's true.
I could see Flair winning this, and
Yeah, I predict Flair is going to win it as well. Nothing against Ripley, but she's got a lot more years ahead of her than Flair does. I think Flair takes it, and then love to see her and Becky Lynch fight it out until SummerSlam. I think would be really cool. All right, let's get to the meat, if you will. We're going to give you an auditory orgasm as we talk about managers and their importance of their roles in wrestling are huge.
Back in the day, you couldn't be, they were so important to wrestling. Those managers were sometimes better than the superstars themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember when Macho Man first arrived at WWE, and every manager, Freddie Blassie, Lou Albano, all these great managers from the 70s and the 80s were pining to get Macho Man. And of course, he went a different direction. But, you look at, the history all the way through the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and so on. And you have amazing guys, amazing characters that were as important as the wrestlers themselves,
Yeah, because you had some guys that had some great looks.
Oh, yeah. Lou Albano with the rubber bands.
Well, no, I mean the superstars. They had some great looks.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of times they couldn't really do the mic thing.
Yeah, can't cut promos, and that's what good managers do. Good managers can cut good promos when your wrestler can't.
I don't think I've ever seen a promo from someone like Hercules Hernandez.
Yeah,
King Kong Bundy. It was mostly just their managers doing most of the talking.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get to our top five. So we had a coin toss backstage, and surprise, surprise, Canada Dry, you won.
I won again. That's 2 weeks in a row.
I know.
I'm on a roll.
I gotta stop using that double-headed coin.
Yes. So I'm gonna start out. So we got 5 each, making a total of 10. I think our number 1 is going to be the same. So it's only 9, but we both got the same.
I have a feeling our number 1s are going to be the same.
So my number 5 is the beautiful Miss Elizabeth. You brought her up earlier. That's who Macho Man chose. And, every kid had a poster of Elizabeth on her wall.
JFB did.
Yeah, I remember having the Elizabeth action figure, and you back. She died so young though.
Yeah, it was an extremely tragic loss.
She only died. She was only 42.
Yeah.
But her run with Macho Man in the 80s, she actually started out as a TV announcer.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but I've heard that before. But
yeah, she started out as a TV announcer, and but just her role with Macho Man was pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember. She didn't cut promos that much, but she was always a focus between her and Macho Man and whoever Macho Man was wrestling, whether it be Hogan as the superpowers eventually colliding, whether it was against Jake the Snake Roberts. She always seemed to be the woman in peril, but somehow she always came out of it unscathed.
Yeah, do you remember the George the Animal Steel had a crush on her?
Oh, yes, I do remember that.
And Macho Man used her to, really came off as the sort of the abusive boyfriend.
Yeah.
Putting her in the ways. And that gave him such amazing heat.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. Well, I'll never forget that time when he got down on one knee and said, "Elizabeth, will you marry me?" Oh, yeah.
And their marriage was actually in trouble at that time, so maybe it could have helped. But
well, my number 5, I'm going to go with Paulie Dangerously, also known as Paul Heyman. This man bled.
Wow. What? Yeah. I just want to say, what a great number 5. Like that's really low for Paul Heyman. Like,
I got some great ones lined up.
Yeah, you do.
But that man bleeds the business. He started as a photojournalist. He would take pictures for newspapers, but he eventually became a manager of some of the best wrestlers in the business. Bam Bam Bigelow was his first. He actually was the manager for Bam Bam Bigelow, which is weird because Bam Bam could cut promos, but not as good as Paul Heyman could. Then it was, Tommy Rich, Eddie Gilbert, the original Midnight Express, Stunning Steve Austin. He had the Dangerous Alliance. And then he jumps away from being a manager and goes into becoming the main booker for, at the time, Eastern Championship Wrestling, and then flipped the middle finger, if you will, and told NWA to go F off and started Extreme Championship Wrestling. And was not only the owner, but part owner with Tom Gordon, but he created a machine. Do you remember watching ECW at all?
I watched a bit. I didn't watch it that much, but it was great. I loved seeing Paul Heyman in there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and of course ECW folds, WWE buys him. Heyman jumps ship, joins WWE, becomes a commentator, which I thought he did an excellent job as a commentator. He was a great heel commentator. But that itch came back, and he went ahead and he managed, of course, Brock Lesnar, obviously, is the most famous and the most well-known connection between Heyman as a manager, but also CM Punk and Curtis Axel as well. So that's my number 5.
CM Punk and Brock Lesnar, like, he did such a good job for them.
Oh, yeah. And, Brock Lesnar wasn't much of a talker on the mic, but CM Punk was a great mic guy.
But it just made CM Punk that much better.
Yeah. He gave him that much more of an edge.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's my number 5. In fact, I still have, I'm a Paul Heyman guy t-shirt because I am, and I always will be a Paul Heyman guy.
Well, he did a lot for guys that he really liked. In the business, he was big pushing backstage, and Tommy End was one of those guys that he was really pushing for, and just didn't have enough pull, I guess, to get him going in WWE.
Yeah, he's always been a whisper in someone's ear, and trying to get guys over. I know he's big on Cesaro as well, and I have a feeling that Cesaro's push right now has a lot to do with Paul Heyman whispering in Vince's ear.
CM Punk almost didn't get that push because of Paul Heyman, actually.
Oh, really?
Because he was pushing him so much that they were like, just shut up. But they eventually,
I did not know. That's interesting. So what's your number 4? Who is your number 4?
My number 4 is the Doctor of Style, Slick.
Oh, Slick.
Slick, well, he was so fun managing Bobby. He managed Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah.
And was it Bam Bam?
I know he did Akeem the Dream.
Well, yeah, he did One Man Gang, right?
Yeah, One Man Gang.
And One Man Gang and Hakeem, yes. But yeah, he was his real name was Kenneth Wayne Johnson, and he took over when he came in. He took over Freddie Blassie's stable.
Oh, that's right. That is right. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, he took over Freddie Blassie's stable and really made a name for himself with all those guys, and he became a real life ordained minister. And do you remember the Jive Soul Bro song?
Yeah, I do remember
You're a job soul bro, you're a job soul bro, and you never get nothing in the end.
I love Slick. I think he is completely underrated as a manager, as a personality too.
Well, he danced and did all that stuff as he came to the ring, and
oh yeah, he was always in the middle of something, and that's what made him so good. Was he just jive talked like there was no tomorrow. Man, I love Slick. I can't believe I didn't have him in my top 5 at all, but he certainly deserves to be and talked about for sure. My number 4, I'm going to get a lot of crap for this from the IWC, the Internet Wrestling community. My number 4 is Jim Cornette. There is nobody that could irritate.
That's a tough pick, buddy.
Yeah, there's nobody that could, as a heel manager, could irritate and enrage a person like Jim Cornette. Again, he started in the business much like Paul Heyman. He was a ring announcer. He was a ticket guy. He would take photos. He would hand out pamphlets. He would hand out the cards for the night. He eventually got his start as a manager for Sensational Sherry, for Sherry Martel at the time. And then really found his fame with the tennis racket and managing the Midnight Express, who went all over AWA and NWA territories, the original Midnight Express. Then he left Mid-South and created Smoky Mountain Wrestling, where guys like Lance Storm and Chris Jericho got their start. Eventually, again, like Paul Heyman, it folded. He left being a manager and started becoming a producer and booking and working and creative for WWF/WWE. But yeah, Jim Cornette.
Well, Jim Cornette as a manager, I don't mind him as a manager. Entertaining, like he was Owen Hart's and British Bulldogs manager.
Yep.
They pulled some good pranks on him, actually. They as they were doing a promo with him in the middle, I guess Owen and him were both squirting him with water bottles and covered his pants in water, making him think he peed himself. But
that's Owen, man. That's why we love Owen.
And but Jim Cornette as a manager is fine. It's just when he gets his stupid opinions in there.
Yeah.
I don't even mind him on Dark Side of the Ring, because he's just giving he's a fine historian as well.
Oh yeah, he's a great historian. I mean, he bleeds the business, and that's big reason why I put him on my list, because I used to hate his guts growing up and watching Mid-South and Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and him with that tennis racket, and he used to drive me up a wall. But that was the now that I'm older, I can reflect on it. That's the big reason why he was such a great manager. He made you hate him and whoever he managed. He was the perfect heel manager.
I agree.
So, who is your number 3?
Paul Bearer.
Oh, the dead man.
The dead man's manager. What can you say about Bill Moody? Actually, but before he was a manager in WWF, he actually managed Rick Rude and Stunning Steve Austin.
Yep. He also managed The Undertaker when he was Mean Mark Callis, or when he was Big Texas Red. That's right, Big Texas Red.
But and he was a real life embalmer.
Yeah, that's the creepy part. He was an actual Undertaker.
Well, it was Hawk of the Road Warriors.
Yeah,
that came up with the name of Paul Bearer.
So it wasn't. I thought that sounded like a Pat Patterson or Bruce Pritchard.
Because he actually had the name the Masked Embalmer at one point in his early days.
Huh. That is cool.
And he had some, other than Undertaker, he had Mankind, and he had Kane.
Yep.
There was that guy with the axe. He had the mask. I forget who that was. I don't even know what the mask. He had some guy.
Yeah.
Axe, and he had a mask on, and I guess he turned on him after they didn't need him anymore.
Paul Bearer, man, I love Paul Bearer. That echoey.
Welcome to my funeral parlor.
He was just a great. Again, he was like Miss Elizabeth. He was a focus on. He was a big time focus for the Undertaker. And no matter how many times he turned on the Taker always took him back.
Yeah.
And he could cut some really great promos, but I remember him as Percy Pringle III. That was my first introduction to him. In fact, I remember I was watching WWE with a buddy of mine, and he comes out with the Undertaker, and I go, "Who is that?" And he goes, "He looks so familiar." My friend Jim Doran. He goes, "Oh, that's Percy Pringle III." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, he's called Paul Bearer, and he's the manager for the Undertaker." And I'm like, "Oh my god, that's so amazing."
Percy Pringle III was he some sort of like well-to-do sort of character?
I think so. Yeah, I think he was kind of well-to-do and high society, kind of affluent. But yeah, that's a killer number 3.
So he died in 2013.
Yeah.
He had come back and did a bit of a angle with Kane and they got thrown in the freezer, if you remember that.
I do remember that.
He died shortly after. Like, he looked really out of shape there.
Yeah.
More normal than him. But I didn't like that they used his death in an angle after that. I found that was
it was with CM Punk leading into WrestleMania 35.
Yeah, I thought that was so classless.
Yeah.
You don't include real life deaths in wrestling angles. It's just
and from what I remember reading, it was Punk's idea to do it, and the higher up said not a problem. I don't know what Taker's thought was on it, but he was pretty close to the Moody family for sure.
The Moody family was pretty upset by it.
Yeah, I'd be too. I mean, it's kind of classless, using that death to go ahead and promote a match between the Taker and CM Punk. So, well, that's awesome. I like your number 3. My number 3 is sensational Sherry Martel. She was probably, there's a lot of women that came before her as managers or valets. There are more that have come after her. But she started as a wrestler in Mid-South Wrestling. Actually, she was managed by my number 4, Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette actually managed her. She was a
great wrestler as well. She was
she was a 3-time AWA champion.
And 1-time WWF, or was it 2 times?
She was 2 times in WWF.
She beat Rockin' Robin after losing it to her.
Yeah. She beat then eventually she started kind of taking on a valet role. She played Peggy Sue, which was Honky Tonk Man's girlfriend. Then she attached herself to Macho Man.
So was she really married to Rick Martel at one point?
No, she was not. She was married to 2 other guys before her death, but none of them.
So is she related to Rick Martel? No, or just?
I think it's a distant relationship. I'm not really sure. I think it's very distant. After Savage lost his career match, Sherry dumped him, and she hooked up with Ted DiBiase. But her big break as being a manager was with Shawn Michaels.
I kind of disagree with that. I think her big break was Macho Man.
You think so? I think it was Shawn Michaels. I mean, she was established at that point, but Shawn Michaels was really huge.
But I think before Macho Man, who was she? Right?
She was just a champ.
Yeah. But yeah, both of those two, I think you could argue back and forth.
Yeah, it's
both,
razor thin close, but
yeah,
you know,
they were both really good.
she actually sang his theme song.
The original one. They changed it later without her
Yeah.
in it, but she was really bad singing "Boy Toy" in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm your boy toy. Do, do, do. Now, of course, you know, she leaves WWE and she joins WCW, where she managed Harlem Heat.
yes,
Led them to 7, not 6, not 5, 7 tag team titles, and Booker T's 5 heavyweight championships as
she's
well.
passed away, isn't she?
Yeah, she got inducted into the Hall of Fame in 06, and she passed in 07, an overdose death.
It's just another sad thing. Like Elizabeth, she was a little bit older than Elizabeth, but still.
Yeah. But I always remember Sensational Sherry for the crazy makeup and that wicked laugh that she used to have, especially with Macho Man and with Shawn Michaels. But she kind of, feathered out a little bit as she went with Harlem Heat. She made sporadic appearances here and there, but Ted DiBiase actually inducted her into the Hall of Fame, which I thought was really cool.
I remember she played an important role in my childhood as well, because I was a big Brutus the Barber Beefcake fan.
Yeah.
And there was this girl named Sherry
Yeah.
who was giving me a hard time in class, and we would go back and forth, and I would call her Scary Sherry. And Beefcake called that to Sherry Martel. So
I did.
We had a good back and forth.
That was, yeah. I mean, she was awesome. She was, like I said, there were other valets before her, Baby Doll, Missy Hyatt. They were around the same time, and of course, Lita was a valet and a manager before she.
Well, you got to go top 2 there for female managers, Elizabeth and Sherry.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, who's your number 2?
My number 2, and you can't argue with Jimmy Mouth of the South Hart.
Yes.
He managed some of the greatest. So he went to school with Jerry Lawler, the high school.
Really?
Yeah, so they went to school together. And so I guess they were friends. And so he brought him into the promotion, and that's how he started out. And he managed Jerry Lawler for a while. And then they started feuding against each other.
Yeah.
And I guess his big break was when he managed Andy Kaufman.
Yeah.
So he was really right in the national scene. So he was in the paper. He was on all the different shows and stuff. And Lawler would call him the Wimp or whatever. Cause
yeah.
But he eventually made it. He did some big feuding with Nick Bockwinkel. He managed Nick Bockwinkel to a lot of championships. I'm just reading here. So he finally made it to WWF, and his first person he managed was Greg Valentine. Managed him to the Intercontinental title against Tito Santana. But I really think he really made his big splash with the Hart Foundation.
Yeah.
And Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah. Honky baby.
Yeah, he was known as the Colonel. And also our friend Adrian Adonis.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, he did manage Adrian.
But he's right up there as one of the greatest managers of all time. Like just his whole, and he's a musician. He wrote a lot of the wrestlers' theme songs.
Yeah, that is true. I do remember. Did he write Real American for Hulk Hogan?
That is Survivor.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
Yeah, that is actually the real band Survivor. The Bret the Hitman Hart, that's him.
Oh, that opening guitar riff is just
like that. He did so well, so iconic, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think that there isn't a wrestler he hasn't managed in the 80s. I mean, I mean, obviously with Hulk Hogan and Bruce the Barber Beefcake, being Hogan's, mouthpiece, which was weird
Well,
because Hogan was so
that
good.
didn't really fit for me, I gotta say.
Yeah, I liked it because I wasn't a Hogan fan, but I liked that aspect. But it was really weird because Hogan was so good on the mic, anyways.
I think it was just a favor to his friend, and he wanted to help him get over.
Yeah,
but it did for me. Jimmy Hart didn't fit with Hulk Hogan. It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I loved him with Bret the Hitman Hart and Jim Neidhart. I thought that was a great connection. Because both of those guys were really good on the mic, but for some reason, Jimmy Hart made it.
Did you watch the Dynamite Kid episode of Dark Side of the Ring?
I did. Yes, I did watch.
Okay, so I didn't know this when they had that Hart Foundation match, and Dynamite Kid actually wasn't capable of wrestling. That's why they had him KO'd with the megaphone.
Yeah,
and I was like, that was such a neat little piece of knowledge because it just kind of gave you a nice little backstory to why they did that, because that was such great heat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean that puts them over because the British Bulldog and the Dynamite Kid, the British Bulldogs were basically crowned as the best tag team in wrestling, and I think they were, and especially Dynamite Kid. I mean, we could do an entire episode about we could probably do a whole episode about Dynamite Kid. I mean, it's a tragic story, but without Dynamite Kid, you would not have some of these other wrestlers. But yeah, Jimmy Hart getting involved with that angle kind of took that heat from the British Bulldogs.
And I would say that in wrestling at the time, that tag team was they had the best heat in all of wrestling.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a shame that down the line, they kind of broke up a little bit, so Bret could go on his solo run, which, don't get me wrong, I mean, there's not a person in WWE in the 80s that didn't deserve a singles run other than Shawn Michaels was Bret Hart, But yeah, I mean, if you were a new guy coming into WWE, most likely you were going to be teamed up with Jimmy Hart, the Mouth of the South, because he could amplify your character, and just by, cutting those in.
Yeah. And when you think of the wrestling in the 80s, you think of Jimmy Mouth of the South Hart.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, did he make a jump to WCW? Did he leave WWE?
Yeah, he did. He went with Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
Well. He managed quite a few in WCW as well, but nothing quite as notable as.
Yeah. I know it's funny on Hidden Treasures, the A&E show where the WWE is trying to find some of their history from collectors. He's in a couple episodes, and
the Greg Valentine episode, you see a really nice moment between them.
Yeah, and he looks the same. He talks the same. He doesn't look his age at all. That guy has not aged one bit. He's still energetic. He owns a restaurant, doesn't he, in Florida? He owns.
Well, I know he works at Hulk Hogan's shop there, but
does he? Okay, because he used to own. I thought he owned a bar in Florida somewhere, where you could go get drinks, and he would be there all the time. But maybe it is Hulk Hogan's surf shop that he's working at.
Yeah, he is. He does work there.
Yeah, but man, Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart.
Who's your number two?
Huh?
Who's your number two?
My number two. Let me tell you about my number two. That's all I have to say. J.J. Dillon is my number two. He was just awesome. I mean, he started out as a referee and then as a wrestler. He had a really big match at Madison Square Garden against Tito Santana for the Intercontinental Belt. Eventually, he becomes the manager for Tully Blanchard and then forms the Four Horsemen. And you didn't need a manager because Arn was a good talker. Tully was okay. Ole was kind of, he was crazy, but Ric Flair is one of the greatest promo guys in the world. There's not a guy in the game that is as good as Ric Flair is as a promo. But J.J. Dillon, him standing there in his one-piece tracksuit, and he would just be there.
So do you think Tully Blanchard is doing the J.J. Dillon right now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's legitimately right now the modern-day J.J. Dillon. You don't need Tully because you got MJF, you got, Sean Spears, which I don't know how great of a talker he is, but FTR is not bad. We don't know if Wardlow can even form a sentence. I mean, the man never talks. So, but yeah, Tully Blanchard is the modern day version of J.J. Dillon. But J.J. Dillon, he was just, there was just nothing bad about him, and then eventually he became, he left WCW and became a front office executive for WWE. He worked really close with Bruce Pritchard and Jim Cornette at that time. Then he came back to WCW for television as the television commissioner for WCW. Then he left wrestling.
Wait. So he had some great angles with Chris Jericho.
Oh yeah,
WCW.
Yeah,
he played the kind of the authority role.
Yeah,
and Chris Jericho would be throwing tantrums. That was great.
Yeah, and I remember him finding people and trying to control the NWO at the time, and he obviously, as an authority figure, he was often beaten up by the NWO, which got kind of tired after a while. I mean, how many times can you beat up the commissioner and then spray paint him? But J.J. Dillon, man, he is, so well deserving to be in the top 5 list. He, to me, was just the epitome of what it meant to be a manager, which was you'd stand by your guys. You didn't have to cut promos. You just had to be there, had to make sure everything was okay.
The manager, he wasn't really known for WWF, but
yeah, he worked the behind the scenes at WWF, and honestly,
it's that 4 Horsemen that really puts him in this list.
Oh yeah, the 4 Horsemen is what puts him into the discussion. Like I said, you don't have to cut promos all the time. Sometimes you just have to be there with a chair and give somebody a chair shot. So yeah, that's my number 2, J.J. Dillon, the man of the 4 Horsemen.
Okay, so I have a feeling that our number 1 is the same.
I have a feeling too.
Is it Bobby the Brain Heenan?
It is Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Bobby the Brain Heenan. What can you say about Bobby the Brain Heenan? He real name Raymond Lewis Heenan.
Yeah.
Famous for his feuds with Hulk Hogan. Do you remember the debate he had with Ken Patera?
I do remember that. I do.
And they had to bleep out.
Yep.
Most of what as a kid, I'm like, what's he saying? Beep, beep. That was so great. I love that so much.
Bobby was one of the originals. He cut his teeth in WWA. I don't remember him from them. My
wrestler first, right?
What's that?
He was a wrestler first.
He was a wrestler first, yeah.
Wasn't a successful wrestler, Dick the Bruiser.
Yeah. I remember, he managed, his first management job was Angelo Poffo, which is Randy Savage and Lanny Poffo's dad. But he was I remember him with Blackjack Lanza before he made the jump to WWE. Wherever Lanza went, Heenan followed pretty closely.
I made a mistake earlier. It was Bobby Heenan who managed Dick Bockwinkel.
Yes,
not Jimmy Hart. Sorry.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I can't think. He Dick the Bruiser, obviously. Nick Bockwinkel and the feud between Bockwinkel and Dick the Bruiser. Dick the Bruiser was the one who came up with the name Weasel that stuck with Bobby Heenan for pretty much his entire career. I remember the matches where he had to dress up as a weasel and had to run around so he didn't get his butt kicked. Made me laugh. He was just unbelievable.
He was so entertaining as a villain. Like, even if they weren't winning championships, even Jimmy Hart, they were winning more championships with their stable.
Yeah,
but the Heenan family was in the main event constantly against
all the time. I mean, think about this. He had Ken Patera, Paul Orndorff, King Kong Bundy, the Brainbusters, Arn and Tully.
I think it was the first championship they actually won was with the Brainbusters.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny because after Andre dumped Bobby, the brain, after he dropped the brain, he eventually he beat Hogan for the belt, his Saturday Night Main Event. But I remember my favorite pairing was Heenan and Rick Rude, because they were good together. Oh yeah, and the big thing was that the running commentary from Gorilla Monsoon was, will Bobby Heenan ever be able to manage someone to win a belt? And of course, Rick Rude beats the Ultimate Warrior for the Intercontinental. He was just amazing. I mean, he retired from managing in 91, and became a full-time commentator, though he would advise. I don't know if you remember when Flair left WCW and came to WWE.
Yes, he was the consultant.
Yes, he was his advisor.
Yes, I was also with Mr. Perfect as well.
Yeah, part of that deal. Yeah, and he kept holding Big Gold and kept saying Ric Flair is the real champion.
I remember you said you got to be fair to Flair.
Yeah. And but as a commentator too, I mean, we could talk about
Gorilla Monsoon. I got wow, those guys had such good chemistry.
The dichotomy between those two, obviously Heenan plays the heel commentator, Gorilla Monsoon plays the face, the blue eye, but holy cow, did they peel off together? And yeah, I mean, so he can go from being one of the greatest managers of all time to legitimately being one of the greatest commentators of all time as well.
I think that's what puts him right at the top of our list, is because he was good at both of them.
Yeah, and he had a broken neck.
The neck thing. What were you going to say about the Pillman thing?
Yeah, with the Pillman. Go ahead and tell it.
No, go ahead.
Well, he had neck problems well before. That's the reason why he stopped wrestling, was the broken neck, and he had neck problems. But Brian Pillman, on his way from WCW to WWE, decided to grab Bobby the Brain Heenan by the neck and jerked him around. And of course, he dropped the F-bomb live on TV.
Heenan was pissed.
He was not happy at all. Bobby, I read in one of his books where he talked about the admiration he had for Gorilla Monsoon. As they were adversarial on TV, they were, of course, the closest.
But you could see they loved each other.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And when Gorilla Monsoon passed, Bobby was still with WCW, where he was doing commentating. He went to WCW because the schedule was lighter for him to be a commentator. He didn't have to travel as much, so it was easier for him on his body. But when Gorilla Monsoon passed, he was a wreck, and he talked about it extensively in interviews.
So we know mostly Bobby the Brain Heenan from WWE television.
Yes, absolutely.
But he was huge way before that.
Yeah.
In AWA and wherever he went, he was huge.
He was enormous.
Not a lot of people know this, but he had a gun fired at him.
That is right.
It actually critically, he had actually critically, I think it killed someone. He didn't
It
get
did
hit.
kill someone. Yeah, he was unharmed, but it actually killed someone. That's how. If you can drive a man to commit homicide
That is crazy.
in a match, that makes you the greatest manager of all time. That's it. There's no discussion. That makes you the greatest manager of all time if you can drive a man to murder. Oh my God. So that's our top 5. So to add really quickly, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2004, and he passed away in 2017.
It was the sad seeing him at the end there.
It was, yeah. He had throat cancer.
Yeah.
They had to remove his jaw. They had to rebuild his jaw. He lost a lot of weight. He did not look the same. But
and I just gotta say, cancer's a bitch. Like,
yeah, it is. F cancer is what I say.
F cancer.
Yeah, and it was a shame. I remember when he passed. I was working on a film set, and we happened to have wrapped at that point. And I finally turned my phone on to check my messages, and sure enough, the news comes out that Bobby passed. And the drive home, all I could think of was how thankful I was that he gave us all those memories in the 80s with WWF.
When I think of Bobby Heenan, I always think of that neck brace on him.
Yes. I think of the neck brace and then the satin jacket for all the time. I love the satin.
Oh, yeah. What's it? Didn't he have something with the Bulldogs? Or
I don't know.
I thought there was something about the. Oh, yes, when he was managing the Islanders.
Yes. He
had the fake bulldog, whatever. He stole the dog and he let the dog attack him.
He had Matilda. He had the fake Matilda.
Yeah. But yeah, that was great. Who did we maybe deserves an honorable mention on the maybe?
Well, for me, one of them is woman Nancy Benoit or Missy Hyatt.
Yeah.
Those two were World Class Championship Wrestling, AWA, NWA, Jimmy Garvin, Kevin Sullivan. They managed
Captain Lou Albano.
Oh yeah, with the rubber bands in the cheek, baby.
He was the only face manager, but Captain Lou, he directly deserves an honorable mention.
Absolutely, yeah. There's so many. I mean, Oliver
Humperdinck.
Oh, Oliver Humperdinck. Mr. Fuji. Can't forget him.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Fuji was right up there with Slick.
Yeah, with Demolition. And then one of my
great powder gimmick and spraying stuff in your face. All sorts of great stuff.
Now, one of my favorites that didn't make the list, and I was really tossing it between my number 5s, was Sonny Ono from WCW because he spoke Japanese. He had a unique connection. He's the one who brought the Japanese wrestlers to WCW during the 90s. But he was always so swarmy and so ew. But he brought Jushin Thunder Liger and Ultimo Dragon and all these, Masahiro Chono.
Didn't he manage Chris Kanyon as well?
He did for a while, yeah.
When he was Morpheus or whatever he was called.
Yeah, Mortis.
Yes. Morpheus. Classy Freddie Blassie deserves an honorable mention.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Pencil neck.
Yeah, he established that as the world champion when he was on the Mary Tyler Moore show doing that.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, that's our top 5. Top 10, 5 each. But I hope, honestly, that you guys got a big kick out of this. We'd love in the comments to hear possibly what you guys thought. Who are some of the managers that we didn't mention that were your favorite managers? But
give us your top 5.
Yeah, give us your top 5. Drop us your top 5. Let us know exactly who you think. Our podcast comes out on Mondays. You can watch the video on Thursday. Subscribe, leave us 5-star review.
So we're gonna plug our shirts here.
Oh yeah, Pro Wrestling Tees.
Pro Wrestling Tees. /F and Wrestling.
Yep.
For a limited time, we also got the Gimmick Boy shirt.
Yep.
For a limited time, we're going to have a red version of this.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a white shirt with the Gimmick Boy on it as well for a limited time.
Yep.
Then they'll be gone. So pick up yourself an F and T-shirt.
Yeah. Put one on your back. Buy 2. Get one for your father, 2 for Father's Day.
Oh, right.
Damn it. On that note, have you heard from Hulk Hogan?
Well, I messaged him on Twitter just yesterday.
Yeah.
Because he said he was sad about the China thing. So I was like, oh, maybe we can get him on the show. But no response. So on that, it's Canada Dry 1.
No, you're like 4.
All right, Canada Dry 4. Hulk Hogan 0. Ding, 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 ding.